You know, one thing I find interesting with walking through these rich neighborhoods where houses are $5, $10, $15 million is you think it's all going to be like peaceful and beautiful, and it's kind of anything but. You know, it's very annoying to kind of walk through these neighborhoods sometimes. You got the leaf blower guy over there. We're going to walk by a major construction site pretty soon. It's like you spend this kind of money, and this is the kind of noise pollution you get to go along with it, not to mention all the dust and toxic particles floating through the air from the construction. It's kind of funny too, because this ties in with my video today about the American dream. And the new American dream is to leave America. There's a famous quote from the comedian George Carlin from back in the day that says it's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. All this stuff that we've been told, all these things we've seen in movies, is all basically a lie. You know, can it be achieved on some level? Sure. Not without becoming pretty wealthy along the way and making sure you can find a neighborhood that's not under construction 24/7 like this. And even if you move in and it isn't, then it might be in the future. I mean, look at this, guys, all just to put a fancy tree in the yard. You know, they're building this big house over here, so we have to have this whole thing going on just to put that special tree in the yard that they ordered. Madness. But let's talk about people leaving America and this being the new American dream, because we just got the most recent inflation numbers that came out, and surprise, surprise, higher than expected at 3.5% CPI year over year, which once again means that prices are still rising at a 3.5% rate if you believe these numbers. But that's not the whole story, because all the things that we really need to buy in order to survive in life are costing far more than that 3.5%. In fact, the number one on the list, take a look at this. Car insurance inflation is up 22% year over year. Transportation inflation, 10.7%. Car repair inflation, 8.2%. Hospital services inflation, 7.5%. Homeowner inflation, 5.9%. Rent inflation, 5.7%. Electricity inflation, 5%. And food away from home, 4.2%. So let me get this straight. Gas, food, rent, the doctor, the car, and the car insurance, keeping the car running on the road, are all the things that are costing far more than this stupid 3.5% number. And we're all supposed to believe that the economy is turning around for the better right now. I mean, this is what I've been saying, guys, and I'm gonna keep saying it because this is a complete joke right now, okay? You know, the fact that the Fed has had the interest rates pause for a long time and is still not hiking rates right now is a crime in itself, if you ask me. If I was in charge of the Fed, you know, interest rates would be 10% right now. Let's knock out this inflation once and for all, because clearly the rate hikes are not working. People are still buying things at a pace that's too high, and it's making inflation go too high.
I've been watching you from the get-go.
That's awesome, man. What's your name?
Roger.
Roger? Nice to meet you,
man.
Cool, man.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's so cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Good luck, man. Keep it going, man. You do a great job.
I will. I'm doing one right now.
Awesome.
I'll see you later, Roger.
Enjoy your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. It's always so cool to meet big fans of the channel like that, guys. Like, if you're like Roger and you see me out making a video, just feel free to say hello, because I love meeting people that watch my channel. Shout out to you, Roger. This one's for you. So here's the problem, guys. Both core CPI and CPI came in hotter than expectations, okay? This is the fourth straight month in a row with both readings being hotter than expected. And the Fed is talking about doing rate cuts this year? No, I don't think so. I think these people who are predicting back in January that there were going to be no rate cuts in 2024 were spot on, because they should be raising rates right now, not even thinking about cutting. Affordability for every single thing we need to live our daily lives is heading into the toilet right now, and it's making people broke. And it's no wonder that the American dream is now to leave. So there are some people out there, obviously this is not really a new thing, that people have been fleeing the US for lower cost of living countries, but the problem is getting worse because of these things. Now, I just want to start off by saying that I love living in the United States. I love being an American, and I've only traveled outside the country once, and I went to Brazil back in 2014 and 2015. And as beautiful as it is, I would never want to live there, okay? Our standard of living, and as broken as our system is here, is still far superior than what they have there, let me tell you. And my wife would agree, and she's from there. She's Brazilian. If it was so great there, she'd be living there and not here. You know what I mean? So I'm not a world traveler. I haven't been to countries all over the world, but I'd be willing to bet that the quality of life here is still better than a lot of those places, providing you can afford it, which is the main reason people are deciding to pick up and go. 45% of people think that the American dream no longer holds true. There's an association called the Association of American Residents Overseas, and they estimate that about 5.5 million Americans live abroad in 2023, which is the biggest share of expats. 40% are thought to live in the Western Hemisphere, Canada, Central and South America. 26% of them live in Europe, and 14% are in Asia. So one person who is deciding to do this said that the American dream is to pack up and head to a quiet European town or a beachside village in Asia, somewhere where we aren't being poisoned by our food, we don't need 2 to 3 jobs to survive, and where healthcare isn't the luxury but the norm. So I get it, guys. You know, if you are struggling to afford these average things that people need just to have a good, decent life, and that's the way to afford it, I don't blame anybody for getting out of here and going somewhere where they can find a better deal. She says that she also wants some place where people stop and appreciate the little things and enjoy the slow life, a safe place where the community comes together and supports one another. I mean, I have to say, even that sounds appealing to me, and I love living in this country, but I've always enjoyed the slower pace of life. And as much as you guys see me hustling here on YouTube, I try to take a lot of time in between these videos for myself and do things that I want to do. And I'm not one of these people that I feel like I have to be productive 24 hours a day. You know, I see these guys that have YouTube channels that have like 7 or 10 YouTube channels, and I need to make $200,000 a month to feel like my life is worth anything. And yeah, that's great if you can make that kind of money, but you know, no one really needs that kind of money. That's the reality. And so what's the end game? You know, you're spending your life growing this business, and at the end you have money, but you have nothing else. I like enjoying my hobbies and my free time, going to the beach, playing guitar, just watching movies with my wife, doing things that are not designed to earn me extra cash. I mean, I think a lot of people who are feeling upset right now and wanting to leave are feeling failed by our current system. I mean, let's face it, guys, we're being lied to 24/7 by the media, by the government, by the Fed, saying it's all under control, there's nothing to worry about, and inflation is coming down. Like they just keep bragging because it came down from 9% down to 3.5% now. That's not good enough, especially when all the other things we covered are still far higher than that 3.5% number. Basically, everything we really need to buy on a monthly basis. And the problem is this immediate cost of living hike that people are having trouble dealing with has forced a lot of Americans to focus more on short-term goals, like just being able to pay the rent on time and putting food on the table, over long-term goals like home ownership or raising a family or retirement. So in reality, the cost to achieve this so-called American dream now is what's really out of reach for most people. And you know, I am very reluctant to think that it's ever really going to return back to what most people can afford. If the American dream is just to buy a house one day, then yeah, I think a lot of people are still going to be able to achieve that. The housing market is turning around, guys, and we are going to move into a cycle where prices come down, especially in certain areas. But if the American dream is to own a house, be able to afford to have a family, living in that house, pay for all of that, and still be able to afford to retire one day, you know, that three-pronged American dream, that might be out of the cards for a lot of people. You may have to choose your battles from now on. You know, it's coming down to maybe you have to choose, do you want to retire or do you want to have children? Because it's so expensive to have children, and it's also extremely expensive to retire, and people only make so much money, so you may have to pick one. Maybe you can only have 2 out of the 3. Maybe you can own a house and have kids, but not be able to retire. Maybe you can own a house and retire, but have no kids, okay? Maybe you can have kids and retire, but not own a house. So, you see where I'm going with this? They say that the average American across their entire lifetime earns about $2.3 million according to Investopedia. Already 2023 was literally the least affordable year on record for people to buy a house. When you combine the cost of the house with the interest rates, affordability literally sunk to an all-time low. According to Redfin, you need to earn about $110,000 a year right now to afford the median price home across America at today's interest rates. And we know for a fact that median household income is about $75,000, $76,000 a year. So people are coming up way short on that. And this is the state of affairs with people. 51% of Americans would be willing to take a 20% pay cut to achieve a lifestyle that focuses on quality of life, okay? Millennials are most willing to trade income for a better work-life balance at 60%, Gen Z right behind them at 56%, 43% of Gen Xers, and 33% of baby boomers say the same. You have a majority amount of people in this country that care more about their quality of life than exactly where they live. And it's funny that they mentioned this year because quality of life was kind of like one of my main themes I kind of started my channel with way back in 2019 when I uploaded my very first video. My idea with the channel was, talking about quality of life and, trying to live the highest quality of life possible for you. And I still try to do this and practice this myself, even though I don't really talk about it on the channel anymore. So people that have left and fled to other countries say that one of the best things about being a US citizen is our ability to travel abroad and seek out places that might afford us a better life. So, as a US citizen, there's not too many travel restrictions. You can go almost anywhere you want in the world and explore and see if it's worth it for you. Although the problem with that, as you could probably imagine, is it's expensive to travel, especially internationally, and you got to have the money to do that to begin with. And now with the ability for people to work remotely or to have an online business and earn money from the internet, the possibilities are endless, and it's a lot more possible now for people to move abroad, still earn American dollars, and live a much nicer life than you can here at home. Unfortunately, they don't talk too much about people in this story who actually have achieved the American dream, but some of you guys have actually written me emails in the past and shown me, your house in Thailand and different places where I've had people write me saying, look, Michael, I live here. This is my house. I was able to build from the ground up. And if I was living in the US and my retirement income, I'd be flat broke right now. So there's nothing wrong with that, and I think it's a good thing. But the issue is, for me, it's sad that it's coming down to this, really. It's sad that people have to leave their country and go to another country just to be able to have the life they thought they were going to have when they were growing up here. And meanwhile, we literally have millions of people pouring across the US border that are able to capture, a large chunk of this American dream for free right off the bat because of the way our government handles this. So it's really a travesty, guys. But interestingly enough, there's some conflicting data out there about this because there was a recent Realtor.com survey about people and owning homes and how optimistic is everybody that they can achieve the American dream. Now, in this version of the American dream, being a homeowner is the only requirement, okay? But I think the true American dream for most people is becoming a homeowner, being able to afford to raise a family in that home, and retire comfortably once your kids are grown up. That's the three-prong approach to the American dream that I think most people would like to be able to achieve that is seeming more and more impossible today. Obviously, all these people out here on the boats and the mansions and all this, they've achieved the American dream a long time ago, so we're not talking about them. When Realtor.com surveyed people about the American dream, the majority still think that the American dream is possible. However, people are being extremely misled by the real estate industry on how achievable that really is. And they're all being lied to because of the rate situation, guys. I've covered this dozens of times here on the channel, but basically the real estate industry and the mortgage industry has convinced home buyers that if rates were to come down, that magically they would be able to afford a home, which is actually a huge lie. And I'll explain to you why that is in a minute, because they go on to say here that lower interest rates are the key for hopeful home buyers. 4 out of 10 Americans looking to buy a home in the next 12 months would consider it possible if rates drop below 6%. 18% say it would even be possible if it drops below 7%. And 22% of people say that they can afford to buy if the rates drop below 6%, and 32% think that they would be able to afford a house if mortgage rates drop below 5%. Okay, so let's take a look at this a little bit further. Right now, the average mortgage rate is hovering in the 7% range, guys, and that is for the most well-qualified borrowers that have an 850 credit score and have a high income and no debt. So if that's not you, you're not getting a 7% rate without a mortgage rate buy down from a seller or paying down points yourself to lower that interest rate. And this is why that even if rates come down, you're still not going to be able to afford to buy a house. The median home price in America is about $412,000 now, give or take, depending on which source of data you look at. All right, so let's take a look at this listing in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's a very affordable area. It's actually one of the nicest, most affordable areas that I visited across the country during my last road trip last summer. And you can get many houses there under 400K, by the way, but we're just gonna look at this listing here because this house is listed for $424,000. Pretty nice turnkey home over there. Right now, if you get a 30-year mortgage on this house, Redfin's quoting you at a 7.49% mortgage rate, okay? And that's with somebody with average credit, average finances, and a 20% down payment. And at those figures, you're paying $27.97 a month for this house, so almost $2,800 a month, right? So let's say mortgage rates drop down to 4.5%, which is fantasy land right now because there's no way that's going to happen anytime soon, especially with the most recent inflation report. Well, let's dream a little bit. Let's pretend we're asleep and experiencing the American dream. In that case, your mortgage payment is going to go down to $2,143 a month, which is still a lot of money. Yes, you are saving $654 a month, but you still need to earn at least $70,000 a year to be able to afford that house. But guess what? That's with a 20% down payment, okay? That's $85,000, guys. So if you don't have 85 G's, like most people don't, and you want to buy this house, most people come up with like a 5 to 10% down payment. So let's say you have 10%, okay? Which is still $43,000, by the way. But because you had to lower your down payment to 10% down instead of 20% down, now your mortgage payment shoots back up to $2,600 a month, even at a 4.5% rate, okay? So this is why you still can't afford a house even if rates come down. The math just proves it right there. Right now across the country, the average mortgage payment is $2,800 a month, which is why I picked this house, because it pretty much fits the bill. And you're gonna be back up to $2,600 a month at 4.5% rates with a 10% down payment. So people can't afford that. If they could, houses would be flying off the shelf right now, but they're not. Here we have a house for sale for $6 million, and watch out, it's another flip. They bought this house just back in 2023 for $3 million. Now they want to double their money in less than a year's time because they're remodeling the house. So good luck with that. I mean, you could literally rent this house back in 2017 for $7,200 a month to just show you how far out of whack with reality all of this is. And the current property tax bill is about $32,000 a year, but that does not reflect the recent purchase in 2023. And when the assessed value catches up, the new bill is going to be anywhere between $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And so you're going to pay that much money in taxes, that much for the house, to sit here and sniff construction glue all day long and listen to leaf blowers. And that sounds like heaven, doesn't it? So all these delusional home buyers out there that are drinking the Kool-Aid, that keep hearing that, oh, if interest rates come down, people are going to surge back into the market and home prices are going to balloon again. Like Barbara Corcoran keeps touting this nonsense that I just showed you the math, guys. It's not going to happen. And one thing that's really not going to happen is mortgage rates are not going to come back down to 4.5% anytime in the near future. The only way that happens is if there's a massive emergency and the Fed starts emergency cutting rates, which means our economy is going straight down and nobody's going to be buying houses then. So not only would you see lower mortgage rates, but you'll also see home prices plummet in a situation like that. So I just feel bad for all these, especially younger generation, you know, they're the ones who are believing this the most, you know, millennials and Gen Z, thinking that, oh, we're going to be able to buy a house if interest rates fall down. You won't be able to, guys. I'm sorry. You need prices to come down substantially in order to afford it. Even at today's rates, it would be fine to pay a 7.5% rate if the price got cut by 30%. That'd be a much better outcome for you. And real estate agents and mortgage brokers will lie through their teeth to you about this. And I have an example here of why. Because there was a quick little interview out of the Florida Realtors today talking about an agent in Cape Coral. They're still telling their clients to buy right now. And here's why. There's been a lot of hurricane damage in the area, and a lot of people have repaired those homes and are now bringing them to market, and that's causing the inventory to go back up again. He says, you know, it's a good time to buy as a buyer because you have more options on the market, which provides you with more room to negotiate. Like, okay, yeah, you should be negotiating heavily right now, especially in a market over there, because the inventory is off the charts, guys. I'll show you what I mean. And this guy's drinking the Kool-Aid too. They all say the same thing. I just proved this to be wrong. Here's what he says. If they wait until the interest rates drop, all the buyers that have uncertainty are going to swarm in, and the sellers will probably be in a multiple offer situation. Don't believe this nonsense, because unless the prices come down substantially, that will not be true. And first of all, you're never going to hear a real estate agent or a mortgage broker tell you not to buy right now, unless there's somebody like me here on YouTube that has no incentive for you to buy. I don't care if you buy or not, guys. I'm not on here trying to sell you a house. Like, yeah, I have a service available that's always in the description below for people that want or need a real estate agent in the US. But I just offer that as a service to you, as a courtesy, you know, just to help out my subscribers. I don't make a lot of money from that. Show you how bad this guy is lying right now. He's in Cape Coral, Florida right now. This is a market that is primed for a housing crash, and I believe the housing crash has probably already begun over there. Because first of all, home prices are completely flat. They have not grown year over year, basically at all, and they're on the precipice of going down, as you can see by this chart here. And even more troubling is this area is overvalued by about 27%. So prices are still way too high compared to what people can afford in the area. But the real problem is that inventory there is completely exploding, guys. Inventory in Cape Coral, Florida is at pre-pandemic levels, as you can see. So all these houses over there that are for sale are going to be sitting on the market forever, waiting for a buyer at these prices and rates. So you know what's going to have to happen to get those houses sold? They're going to have to drop the prices substantially. Also, this area was heavily damaged by a hurricane, and a lot of the damage is still very visible, and that's going to give a lot of buyers a hesitation and a second thought to be like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be buying in this neighborhood where my house could potentially be underwater again in a year from now. And you know what the biggest problem is with inventory returning to pre-pandemic levels in an area like this is, you know what's not pre-pandemic? Prices and interest rates. In fact, the only argument that I could see being remotely relevant for somebody to buy in the Cape Coral, Florida area right now instead of be a renter is because the spread and the difference between being a renter and a buyer there is still very minimal, even with the high cost to buy. It's about 18% more expensive to be a buyer in Cape Coral, which is still more expensive because your yearly house payment there is going to be on average about $30,000 a year, $31,000, but your yearly rent is going to be about $26,000 a year. So some people might say, you know what, for the extra $4,000 a year, it's worth it to be a homeowner. That would be the only legitimate argument I could see for somebody wanting to buy, but realize that you are purchasing a falling knife in an area like this because all of the signs point to home prices going down. They have inventory back to pre-pandemic levels, as I showed you. They have sales slowing down. People aren't buying the houses. It's also a market that is still extremely overvalued at 25%. So really just be careful out there, guys. There are just so many lies and so much misinformation when it comes to real estate and achieving the so-called American dream. I'm not telling you should give up on it, because that's what a lot of the younger generation has done. That's what I've seen in the comments of my Gen Z doesn't want to work video. People are just giving up, which I don't think is the right thing either. Maybe the solution is like what this other person says. Maybe you should move somewhere abroad where life is more affordable, okay? But that still takes initiative. That still takes, some kind of ambition to still get the American dream, not stay home in mom's basement. I mean, in the long run, and I'm still optimistic on America, guys. I still think there are a lot of people out there that have the drive and ambition to make it happen. I think they're gonna have to work a whole lot harder and longer than they initially thought to achieve it, but I think it is still gonna be possible for those who are willing to put in the effort. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you don't wanna wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.